So I'm just going to share briefly before we go in to more worship. And I say worship of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And it's interesting. I wouldn't show it to you right now, but I saw a little clip of, because I've been going back and checking in the church, the history of the church, and I saw a little worship clip of some people worshiping, very deep worship. And I started to note some were still here, some weren't. And I saw they were externally worshiping deep. But because I know the continued story of some of them, I realize worshiping deep today does not mean you're bearing fruit tomorrow. Are you understanding? Some continue to bear fruit and some did not. But you could swear it was angels from heaven in that little clip. Not just how they sounded, how they were worshiping. And I really, 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 really believe our lack of understanding of love is at the root of our standing and lasting and bearing fruit. I want to say to you, when we take 1 Corinthians 13, first of all, I want you to know we cannot love God who is a spirit and not love our fellow man. And we've got to love our fellow man the way the word is talking about here. This is the love. There's no other kind of love. There's no other way. And I just wonder, you don't have to put your hands up, but for me personally, church is a wonderful place because God has called us to be part of what He's doing, called church. Isn't that correct? He's called us to be the church. For myself, I believe that, and I choose to support what God is doing, and I will always support what God is doing. But it's also become a very dangerous place because the human beings who are part of His church have not understood what love is. So it's not a safe place to be for me. You speak for yourself. I ain't asking nobody to put their hand up. It doesn't mean that I don't support church, but because of our lack of understanding of love, it's not safe. Because it's only where there's unconditional love can one feel safe. So while there will be those who will go back to this every day to make sure they are loving this way, many don't. They love in whatever way they believe love is supposed to be. And I want us to remember how He calls us, so it will change for those who do not yet feel safe. I may not be speaking for you, I speak for myself, but there may be one or two others. Because while we are here and we worship, we don't make it safe by our ways of encouraging and speaking and carrying the burdens of others. We think of ourselves, but God is calling us to go past that. So this is to push us to go deeper, not for us to get all fluffified and bothered. Rev says she don't feel safe. Don't worry about me. I will keep my vows to Him, even if I'm killed and crucified. That's okay. I am saying to you, it is because we do not love as He calls us. So some will say, I love. They mean it in their own way. God calls His church to love in a way that it's unmistakable. We will never be the same, but we will know if we are loved. We will know if we love. it will have an effect on those around and the environment around. It's unmistakable. We will think the best, as I will support here. We will think the best and try our best to encourage and to help the one or the ones who may be falling short in our eyes. But we wouldn't put a full stop to our relationships with them. It will be a ... continued, because God calls us to love. We're still very enclosed in our bubbles of life. So you know those bubbles, you have those little, you dip it in the soap and you blow those bubbles and you see them floating around. Lots of bubbles floating around. But we're in our little bubble. And we all line up, but we're in our bubble. And we take all that we can so that we can be who God calls us to be, except the path with love is going to cost us. And we are not all quite there yet. So this is to encourage you and not discourage you. This is to let you know we can't say we love till somebody says, yeah, I feel safe around you. You love it. You can't know if you love. You could say you want to love. It's the other person that can verify if you love. Do you hear what I'm saying? And you've got to want to be that person that somebody says, I know you truly love. I know. You're not perfect, but I know that if I pass you and I make a mistake, I know you love, because the first thing is not the negative. You're thinking the best and you're coming to tell me the negative, but you're thinking the positive. You know, you can tell somebody you're negative, but you're thinking the positive. You can say to them, you're doing stupidness. I know your heart means well, though, eh? I just want you to be aware. That's love. Are you understanding me? A person will feel safe to be around you because they will know if they mess up, you're thinking the best while looking for a way to correct them. That's the way. That's the way of Jesus. Wasn't that the way of Jesus? Did you not see him go to the woman who was committing adultery and was accused of adultery? And all he said is, those who have no sin, peel the first stone, which meant he was talking to them, are you without sin? And he also told her, go and sin no more. So he acknowledged she sinned. He said to her, go and sin no more. He didn't hide the sin. But he thought the best. If I tell you not to sin, I believe in that you will not go and sin anymore. He took the time with her while everybody was po. When you are in an environment like that, you don't feel safe because you know every little mistake you make, somebody interpreting it, however, and going through with it. You understand what? You can't be. But love, the way God loves, is a refuge. He's a refuge, and the church is called to be a refuge for broken people. We are all broken. So if someone is broken, they must feel safe to be loved into wholeness, while God himself is changing them from the inside out. That's what makes us different from the world. What happens to us is that we bring how the world deals with situations into the church. So we're full of suspicion, we're full of this, we're full of that, we're full of comments, we're full of while we worship him. That's why I could have watched that clip and I'm like, wow, this song ain't like the angels in heaven, except the fruit down the road wasn't angelic of the very same ones in the clip. I'm just saying. So don't be fooled by the spiritual sounding songs we make. You tell a tree by its fruit. And I have to tell you if that's orange. You can't come and try and tell me this lemon is orange. I gotta cut the orange and check out the orange, and here it is orange. You can't come and tell me there's a special new kind of orange when it's really a lemon. You understand what I'm saying? So, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or clanging cymbal. There are so many spiritual sounding messages that halfway through some of them go into tongues and all while they're delivering it, because the Holy Ghost takes over. And we believe it's oh so holy and wonderful, and it probably is. More holy than anything you might get inside here for that matter. I don't know. Because there's lots going on with the move of the Holy Spirit. But if I do all of that and I have not love, I may as well be out of tune. I may as well be an empty clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains but have not love, I'm nothing. You all don't understand what this verse is saying. You know what the gift of prophecy is? You know, there are those giants who are really, truly prophetic and could literally, from the Holy Spirit, speak from the heart of God, and could probably explain all mysteries, all kinds of things. You know, there are those icons of the faith, and could look at something and pray, and as they pray, that dead person comes back to life. Like we're talking about faith and prophecy that you don't see all the time, because it says here, all mysteries, all knowledge, all faith, so that I can remove mountains. But I have not love, I have nothing. Do you know that you can operate in all those gifts at a level that no one else has ever seen? And yet, without the love that God is talking about here, it amounts to nothing. I don't know if we understand that any of the goodness that we do is worth anything if a heart of love is not behind it. And you can't just say, I love. Those are wrong. You have to say, I know you love. We are not self-proclaimed lovers. We are lovers whose fruit is evident. And as I told you earlier, it will be a safe place. It will be a place that if you mess up, you can count on the brethren to love you through the fix-up. And not be ready to point at what the mess-up is. You hear what I'm saying? You see, this kind of love suffers, it says here. Let me give you the next verse. Before we talk about suffers, because this kind of love is going to call for you who choose to want this kind of love. You'll have to count the cost. And that may be why we stop and we don't go any further. It may be a love that you want it, but it's really about how you are and how you are treated, and it goes no further. But we're not there yet. Though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor. So you could understand, if I sell my car now, go and tell my husband, all the money for the house, let's sell the house, give away everything. We end up in the park up the road because they have so many hungry people now and we have to feed them. And so we will live in the square instead. But have not love. It means nothing, you all. I don't know if we understand. God is making a point here. All the actions we make that are sacrificial mean nothing if we don't have that love that He puts in our heart. If I give my body to be burned, we can't even comprehend that because we've never been in that position where we've said, no matter what, I wouldn't deny God. I'm not going to abandon the brethren, like how they're attacking churches in the U.S. now. Churches that they believe are anti-abortion, they are attacking those churches now. It's only a matter of time for us, you know. But we have solved the problem already in this country. And I will talk about why that is at another time. We've gotten quiet. So nobody don't know who, because it's certain religions they're calling out. They're calling out the Catholics. And I forget there's one other. My husband asked me, how they're not calling out the Pentecostal and the full gospel? Hear me? Because they does be quiet. They're not saying nothing about anti-abortion. They are only calling out in the U.S. a couple, I can't remember the second one. But the Catholic churches is one because they're very vocal. So I'm saying here, without love, nothing else. None of this would matter. None of this would matter. You see, this should get our attention. What is this thing called love? Because this is what is keeping back the breakthrough in our life. Even us understanding what church is. Even us recognizing. Because it's very easy to make this into some kind of a religion with rules and we're conforming or not conforming. But as I told you, I started off saying, love in our heart makes the people around us feel safe. You can trust. You know the person will think the best and look out for you, regardless of what happens to you and what you do. That's what love is. Love suffers long and is kind. It means that no matter what the person keeps doing to you, you will continue to endure while you may correct, but you will continue to love. You will continue to treat them right. You will continue to reach out to them. You will continue to show support. You will not think of their negatives. You will think of your own self where you are falling short, and you will make an excuse for them. Because you know you're not perfect. That's what love is. It doesn't mean that you don't get help for people or ask people to get help for themselves. But some people, I have come to the conclusion, are not aware some of the time of what they do, and the other time when they are aware, they're not ready to deal with it. So where does that leave you? Where does that leave me? Long suffering. And it says in italics, while you're suffering long, you are kind. Which means you treat them with kindness while they are not how they're supposed to be in your eyes. And it's very important for us to understand. Why is that important? Because there are those who are broken. There are those who come from different backgrounds. There are those who have different expectations. There are those who have different upbringings. And until they are restored, you've got to be kind and endure their mistakes or behaviors. There's nothing worse than somebody asking me, how I'm planning to handle if someone is not behaving correctly in church. Well, the first thing I want to say is where sexual immorality is concerned, that is a different kettle of fish. Paul gives us a clear directive. But a lot of times is the little battles we have with each other. How do we handle it? That's what makes me realize we don't know the word. Because nobody should have to arbitrate when people don't get along in a church. You know why? Because this is supposed to solve the problem. If you go to them and tell them and they don't want to hear, suffer long and be kind while you're waiting for them to come around. But sometimes when you go to them, they will say, I didn't know. Or they'll say, no thanks for telling me. Or I knew and I now understand it's wrong. Are you all hearing me? Because we read this chapter and we are not understanding that it is blocking the breakthrough in our life. So while I did not teach on the topic that I believe I need to teach on very soon, much deeper, when you go back to listen to this message, you know what it's talking about. I believe that we still don't understand this thing called love. Love does not envy. So if we are finding ourselves paying a lot of attention to the attention that other people get or don't get, or the things that they have that we don't have, we need to ask the Lord to help us, because that's not love. It's not of God. So it shouldn't even become an issue where there should ever be conversation about this one gets more attention than that one. Like if we are talking about families in the world, you know, the disciples, they did that. They started to argue who needs to be on the right hand and the left hand of Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? It's called envy. It's called jealousy. It's called pride. Love does not parade itself. It's not puffed up. And at the end of the day, if you know somebody has a problem, maybe you are part of the problem. Or maybe you have a problem with that person. So we say, well, no, I'm not puffed up. I'm not parading myself. But the fact is, if the brethren have a problem between each other, and there's no effort made to sort it out, that's pride. It says, I don't need to do what the word says. That's being puffed up. Because the word says, one, if somebody else ought, go to them. Secondly, it says, take the person, if they've sinned against you, you feel that they've done something wrong, and talk with them. If they don't listen, take a witness. It's in the word. It's in the word. It's in the word. But we don't follow it. That's because we are puffed up while we parade ourselves in church. Gifted, loving Jesus, but not knowing how to solve disagreements. And this overflows into our workplace and our families. And we blame it on our personality. You know how I am. I like to withdraw before. Save your speech from me. I'm not interested in that speech. You can tell other people. I'm not interested. Christians have to learn Holy Ghost personality. Do you understand? You know, I don't like confrontation. Learn to like it. Because the Bible doesn't say only this group. It says, go speak the truth in love. It says here, and this is a very short word. I'm just bringing it as we worship the King, because I started saying that we can be worshiping, but in our relationships, we are not worshiping God. The fruit is not there of love. The word says it does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, does not rejoice, it is not provoked, thinks no evil. Love does not behave rudely. If ever in our interaction with someone we've been rude, you are not loving. Whether or not you was vexed, you're not vexed, you're whatever. Love is not rude. So Christians are not supposed to be rude in their behavior or their speech. And if you still are, then you must ask God to help you, because you cannot just say, I'm a Christian, God hasn't finished with me yet. You've got to learn. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. The person shouldn't even know if you're upset. You should be able to love them back even though you are still processing what just happened. You go to God with it before you go back to them. So they should never know you swell up. That is for the world. That's not for the church. And somebody has got to decide, are we chameleons or are we truly Christians? Because we say one thing, but we are not reflecting this love. I don't do TikTok because that thing will have my head TikToking. You understand? If somebody sends me something, no problem. But I don't go scrolling. I don't have that time, okay? So it's Facebook because the ministry is on Facebook. Hey, Olia. I sit back and I say, be careful in how I respond back on somebody else's page. I'll respond how I choose to respond according to the word of God on my own page. Because it's such an unfriendly place to be. Because you make one statement, you're feeling the bristles from the other Christians. Do you understand me? I'm not talking about the world. And I'm saying, just like I started off saying, if I'm loved, I'll feel safe. I don't feel that safety out there on social media. Say, well, that's social media. I'm speaking about the ones on my page. Yes, they are non-Christians, but I'm talking about the Christians. So sensitive. You can't say anything. You have to go and explain A, B, C, D, and E. And we have lost the art of hushing, even if we vex. Do you understand? Jesus set his face like flint. He didn't look to the right nor to the left. Because oftentimes, somebody might be having a hard day. We don't have to let people know that we are so upset. Love does not behave rudely. Does not seek its own. It's never about proving your point. It's never about trying to make sure everybody understands you mean well. It's not trying to have the last say. It's actually seeking what's best for the other person. Even if you're uncomfortable, you don't go out of your way to make sure they know you're upset. You don't embarrass them. You're not seeking to prove your point. You cover. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love covers. We hear these things, y'all, and we say, it's not possible. It is possible. We have strayed. Love is not provoked. Someone that really loves, you cannot provoke them into reacting in a way to you that they start putting you down and saying terrible things. They can get angry and you can have a discussion. But it ought never to be that you're so provoked that you storm off, you're cut off, That's why we need Jesus. That's why we are here tarrying and going back into some worship in a little bit. Why? Because it's only his presence in us that's going to change us. It's only his increasing that's going to change us as we decrease. We cannot love that way without him. Love is not provoked. I started off saying, I don't always feel safe in church. Why? Because you have to make sure you don't step on nobody's corn. because you don't know who will be provoked because of something you said that you didn't mean it that way, but somebody heard it another way. Do you understand? You hear something, you suppose to cover that person. And even if you think you heard right, go to God and then go to the person, but cover. Somebody come to tell you, say, no, that can't be so. Even if you think it was true, that can't be so. Go to God and then go to the person. See, this is what God is calling us to. We don't want to hear these things. But the church will never answer the call of Jesus Christ in the way that He has called us to, as the early church was called, if we don't understand this thing called love. Because when you look at the disciples and the apostles and you see their life, they were mocked, they were ridiculed. The furtherance of the gospel was what they focused on. And what does that mean? That the souls that were spitting on them did not die in hell. You can't reach a person for Christ with the gospel if while you talking to them and they're provoking you, as in saying things to you that have you aggravated, it will never be provoked. Love thinks no evil. You all know what that means? You all know what love thinks no evil is? You hear something, you choose to think the best, and don't allow yourself to think the worst about the person. Till if you have a conversation with them, and if you don't, then you and God keep that. This is the call, y'all. Love thinks no evil, so there ought not to be no gossip. How can there be gossip? How can there be? So let me say, there's no gossip. Nobody do gossip. There's no talk. Do you know if you don't have proof? The Word of God says, whatever we say has to be validated in the mouth of one or two witnesses, else we cannot accept it. Y'all know the Word says that, right? So you cannot go to somebody about something unless you have proof. And you need to call one or two witnesses and say, I need to know if this is true before I go to, you understand? Else we are supposed to disregard it. We don't know what the Word says. Love thinks no evil. It's in the Word. Love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. So if you hear a brother or sister doing something wrong, you're supposed to get grieved. You're supposed to say how I could help them. You're supposed to say, I'm sorry to hear this. If they sinned against you, you're supposed to be grieved about that. Because you are looking to see how to tell them or how to take it to God and hush. Because David took plenty things to his grave. Because he couldn't go to the persons. This is how we are called to be. We don't tend to. That's why I started off saying, I don't know about you, this is not about me, but I'm starting off by saying, if you are loved, you feel safe. I'm yet to feel safe in this church. I can't. I know there are those that love, but you're asking me generally safe? No. Because the first thing people hear, they think the worst. Or they run to someone. So if I'm doing it to me, they're doing it to others. Does it mean that we don't love? We are trying to love. But here's what. Time is short all year. Things have to speed up now. We are not worse than any church, but don't be like other churches and think it's okay. It's not okay. It is keeping us back from being set free of the things that have us bound. And it's going to overflow, it probably has, into our relationships, into our homes. The Word of God says, love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. So, We will never feel good if a brother or sister is in sin. Even if the sin is against us. We will not feel good until it's cleared up. Sometimes we can't clear it up. Sometimes to clear it up, you can hurt a person because they're not at the stage to deal with what you want to tell them. So you got to cover it. I don't know if you all understand what I'm saying. Everybody is not the same. There's some people are fragile. There's some people are stronger. There's some people, they have been so hurt that one little piece of hurt will send them pelting out of the church. You have to suffer long with whatever is going on until they are mature enough to handle it. I want you to know that, and I'm going to close, it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. The point that is being made here, bears all things. You may not get satisfaction in how you think that person should be, because God is working in them and He has not finished. Can we cover for each other, love each other, so that we can still worship together and be in a community where God is changing us, but He hasn't finished with all of us? Or are we so wonderful that the one that we think is sinful has no place? Because clearly we will not help them to feel safe. They can't feel safe. If the pastor don't feel safe, they go feel safe? Come on, all you. You all are listening to this and you're gasping. Don't gasp. Don't gasp. I promise you. If you read something, somebody writes something, you don't live with me, you don't know anything, you go believe the person before you believe me. Until maybe you meet and you talk with me. Now there are those who will know because they know the person. But that's how we operate. But this is not how God says to operate. It's the back to front. That's what we're called to do. So it means we have to put our feelings on hold and do what Jesus did for we. Because that's what He did. He made excuses and covered us and paid a price for what He didn't do. Hello? That person did that? Forget that now. Don't worry. They didn't mean that. They what? They broke your thing? Okay, don't mind. I'm taking it out of my own pocket and I'm buying it back. Don't worry. I will talk to them. They're not ready to hear. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel sorry for some of the moms with the children. I always tell Minister Trisha, we know they're not supposed to eat in the sanctuary, but it's not a rule. You know, they have some that giving plenty trouble. They have a little popcorn, they want to smuggle them. You know, give them a little popcorn. And the thing about it is, I understand. Now, of course, for the majority, if everybody ate the pilau and the curry upstairs here, it will be a mess. But we must love people. They have some people. And this happened to me close to 30 years ago when I had a little one in a church, and I didn't know not to give them a little bottle of milk in the church. I didn't know. And the person came and told me, and I was so mortified. I think I must be weak for 2 days after. They didn't mean anything, eh? But they were not understanding. You understand? But I'm an obedient soul. The next time, the person preaching at the front, my children made plenty noise. I tried my best. My son was very active. I was told after the service in front of everybody, do not bring this child back in here. It goes on. But we mightn't do that. But we might. They didn't know that they could just go downstairs and listen downstairs. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing. And the person hear you. That could hurt. Because it's hard being a parent with children. The ones that are struggling a lot are the ones with the 2-year-olds and the 1-year-old. We can't still get enough to teach children's church. We can't get them for the toddlers. So many of them, my own daughter included, because she have little ones, right? Mom, I come in because I know I have to come. But when you see I go home, I'm so tired because I have to be chasing. All I do is chase him. I can't listen because he's too young for the children's church. And we don't have a toddler section because we don't have enough help for the toddler section. Says, I'm so exhausted. Do we understand situations that we may not be part of? So she told me, I'm using her as an example. Say, Mom, so came up to me to talk after church. I told them, I'm not in a good mood. I say, how you could tell them that? Because if I don't sound good, I go get reported, but they don't understand what I went through for the whole service. But it's true. Are you understanding? Saints, you don't feel safe unless we learn to love like Jesus loved. This is not condemnation. This is we've got to do better. Now, I'm not saying this because of my daughter, because she can handle her stories. Right? If she's tired, she'll cope. But you understand, Pastor daughter, you have to sound good all the time. I don't sound terrible to nobody, you know. Because, saints, you should be able to be who you are. Know the brethren have you covered. But if you're behaving bad too often, they should be able to tell you, listen to me. Stop your nonsense now. I love you, but stop your nonsense. You understand what I'm saying? Saints, we need to be a community that really understands love. Love is not because you say you love, you love. Love is not, let me tell you, sometimes there's some people, they're so broken, you have to go out of your way. Okay, because they really don't believe that they can do anything right. And I want you to know that some people, they will not love you back that way. You have to apply what you are learning about love to them. Love never fails. Love endures all things. So you have now to look at your situation where there are those who don't know how to love, and you have to love them back. Gotta love them back. And so, I want to say to you that as I close on this message, whether they are prophecies, they will fail. All the prophetic word and the tang, 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 and all this da, 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 and God, Jesus coming back, all of that, we know. Whether they are tongues, they will cease. Where there's knowledge, it will vanish away. We know He's returning, but we also know the church is still full of spots and wrinkles, and love is a big part of what needs to manifest. We know in part and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I am also known. And now abide faith, hope, and love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. The greatest is love. We see in part. Y'all, we see in part. Situations, we see in part. People, we see in part. Prophecy, we see in part. We do not know everything. And this is why we have to love. Because while we're waiting maybe for the revelation of something else, we've got to think the best. We've got to be long-suffering. We've got to be kind. We've got to understand we don't know what's going on with that person. We have no idea what kind of day they had. We don't know what they're thinking about themselves, that we are adding to it because our response is not love. Since I really feel that it is something that we gloss over, but we want breakthrough. And I have to tell you, you command demons to go, they go. But they don't stay away if love is not there. Love disarms. A person who loves, it's very hard for the devil to stay in a temple that really loves. Very hard. Because the greatest is love. And God is love. So it is not possible. I'm not saying that those of you that still have bondage, you're not loving. I say you need to love more. I need you to know it is not possible for Satan to hang around when love is the response day and night and night and day. In fact, there's nothing he could do, nothing he could provoke you with, because love cannot be provoked into any other response. This is what we need to ask God for. Don't take it as condemnation, because these days everybody feeling condemned. No, we need to know how much further we've got to go. Because we are the closest that some people will get to seeing a reflection of Christ, even if it's part. Is it love they're seeing? Because if it's in part and they're not seeing love, what are they seeing? Are you hearing me? So, Father, in Jesus' mighty name, I ask you, Lord, to help us. Help us, Father, in, oh God, this walk. Jesus, help us. Help us, Lord. Help your church. Help us, Father. Oh God, we desire to grow more and more in your image. It could only be in love. It can only be in love, oh God, because you said everything else will pass. What lasts is love. So, Father, I pray in Jesus' mighty name, God, may we make excuses for others while we wait for you to work in them. God, may we think the best while we help them to deal with the worst. God, may we, in Jesus' mighty name, when we see things, we cover the person. Oh God, Father, may we as people who may be corrected, may we know, oh God, it's because of love that we are corrected. Father, may we not be puffed up. May we not be prideful. May we not behave rudely. May we know that we cannot know what goes on in the heart of a person, but God knows, and we trust him. Father, I pray for all here today as we continue to worship you. The word says we cannot love God who's a spirit and not love our fellow man. And so, Father, in Jesus' mighty name, I ask you, help us. Love, help us. Help us. Give us that love in our heart. Give us that love. Give us that love in our heart. Give us that love in our heart. Give us that love, that unconditional love, that agape love, that love that when things change and is not how we want it to be, God, our response will be love while we may ask questions. But God, it will be love. Father, we ask right now that love would cover this place, oh God. And Father, it is because love covered our sins that we are here today. It is because of love that you made a way for us. So Father, may we do the same. Through the blood of Jesus we pray. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.